In the last chapter, we left off with photons. A child stared into the dark, but instead of seeing a monster, he saw only an absence of light particles. That was about rewiring how you perceive a threat, stripping the emotional label off something until all that's left is the raw physical truth. That was survival. Now imagine that same mind turning its focus toward a problem worth $100 million. That's no longer survival. That's warfare. The line between fear and clarity almost always comes down to how you frame the problem. Darkness feels menacing until you realize it's simply a lack of photons. Nothing changed about the room. Everything changed about how you're choosing to see it. It's the same logic as the glass half full or half empty. The water level doesn't move. What moves is the lens you're looking through. And that lens determines everything. Whether you feel dread or possibility, paralysis or momentum. First principles thinking is just that lens, made deliberate, made systematic. Most people heard the SpaceX origin story and thought it was about ambition. It wasn't. It was about photons. In 2001, Elon Musk walked into a series of meetings with Russian aerospace officials trying to buy decommissioned intercontinental ballistic missiles. He wanted to send a greenhouse to Mars. The Russians laughed him out of the room. The price tag they quoted was somewhere north of 8 figures per rocket. A normal person hears that number and thinks, that's just what rockets cost. But Musk had already done this before. Not with rockets, with the dark. Remember, he didn't accept the dark as a fixed real thing. He broke it down to what it actually was, an absence of photons. The emotional label was a lie the brain told itself, because it never stopped to ask the real question. So, on the flight back from Moscow, rejected, humiliated, he opened a spreadsheet, not a feelings journal. When Elon Musk returned from Russia, he calculated the cost of the raw materials needed for a rocket. He realized that those costs were only about 2% of what the Russians were asking him to pay. This was a pivotal moment, an eye-opener. It's something many of us experience. When we rely on the market alone, we often end up paying multiple times more than the true cost. After that eye-opener, he decided to take matters into his own hands, and the rest is history. It's easy to look at Elon Musk breaking down the cost of a rocket and think, that's genius, but I'm not building rockets. I'm just trying to pay my mortgage, get a promotion, or learn to code. But Musk didn't use first principles because he was building rockets. He used it because he was facing an impossible problem rooted in other people's assumptions. And we face those every single day. We just call them the rules. Here is what the Musk operating system looks like when applied to normal life. Let's understand this by an example. The dream home trap. Consider the American dream, buying a house. The assumption. Conventional wisdom says renting is throwing money away. You must buy the biggest house you can qualify for, put 20% down, and take a 30-year mortgage. Why? Because your parents did it. Because everyone does it. The first principle, the truth. Decompose homeownership. What is it? It's shelter plus an investment vehicle. What are the actual costs? Interest, property taxes, insurance, maintenance. In many markets, the throwaway costs of owning are higher than the monthly cost of renting. The rebuild. Maybe the first principles answer right now isn't to buy. It's to rent cheaply, take the massive down payment you saved, and invest it in an index fund that compounds faster than real estate appreciation, without you having to fix a leaky roof on a Sunday. Don't buy the house, because it's what adults do. Do the math on the raw materials of your financial life.
I think it's also important to reason from first principles rather than by analogy. So the normal way that we conduct our lives is we reason by analogy. We're doing this because it's like something else that was done, or it's like what other people are doing. Principles is kind of a physics way of looking at the world. And what that really means is you kind of boil things down to the most fundamental truths and then reason up from there. So somebody could say, in fact people do, that battery packs are really expensive and that's just the way they'll always be because that's the way they've been in the past. You're like, well, no, that's pretty dumb, because if you applied that reasoning to anything new, then you wouldn't be able to ever get to that new thing.
Right.
And for batteries, they would say, oh, it's going to cost, historically it's cost $600 per kilowatt hour, and so it's not going to be much better than that in the future. And you say, no, okay, well, what are the batteries made of? So first principles would be to say, okay, what are the material constituents of the batteries? What is the spot market value of the material constituents? So you can say, okay, it's got cobalt, nickel, aluminum, carbon, and some polymers for separation, and a steel can. So break that down on a material basis and say, okay, what if we bought that on the London Metal Exchange, what would each of those things cost? Like, oh, geez, it's like $80 per kilowatt hour. So clearly, you just need to think of clever ways to take those materials and combine them into the shape of a battery cell, and you can have batteries that are much, much cheaper than anyone realized.
But maybe first principles aren't just about rockets or big problems. They're about thinking itself. What if the problem isn't that we need to solve every twist and turn inside? What if we're puzzling over the wrong maze entirely? First principles might mean bypassing overthinking, stepping out of the loop of our own thoughts. Maybe the best route isn't inside. It's realizing you don't need to enter that loop to begin with. Walls everywhere. Dead ends waiting. A puzzle that seems to demand patience, effort, and endless trial. Most people begin solving it immediately. They step inside, take a turn, hit a dead end, turn again, search harder. But what if the real mistake was entering the maze in the first place? This maze represents how most of us approach problems. We assume the solution must lie inside the system we're given. So we follow the paths already laid out. We move from turn to turn. Because the most difficult mazes we face are not made of walls, they are made of thoughts. Think about overthinking. Your mind starts searching for answers. One thought leads to another, then another. Soon you're trapped in loops, trying harder, thinking more, analyzing every turn. But the solution never appears. Not because you're incapable, but because you're trying to solve the wrong maze. Sometimes, the most rational move is not to think harder. It's to step outside the loop of thoughts entirely, to bypass the maze instead of navigating it. It's completely okay if everything didn't click right away. What matters is that you started this journey with us, and over time, it will help you develop real clarity. Stay tuned. We'll keep bringing ideas that help you think better.